You owe him an apology. That's what Helen said when I walked through the door that Thanksgiving evening. Not hello, not how was the drive, just that. The gravel crunched under my boots, still frozen from the morning. Wood smoke mixed with diesel from Travis's truck parked too close to the porch. Inside, the house smelled like turkey and Helen's perfume. Too much of it, like she was covering something. Travis stood at the head of my table, raised his glass. To the man who taught me loyalty. Everyone smiled. Helen's smile didn't reach her eyes. She waited until dessert. You embarrassed Travis at the co-op meeting. Questioned his invoice in front of everyone. I set down my fork. The serial number didn't match the model year? You owe him a public apology. Her voice had that edge. Final. Curtis, 82 and steady as a fence post, leaned close. That invoice don't look right, boy. Deer don't make mistakes on serial numbers. I watched Travis's hand on Helen's shoulder. Too long, too familiar. Fine, I said. I'll apologize in front of everybody. Curtis's whisper barely reached me. Don't sign nothing till spring. That night, I couldn't sleep. Helen showered long, the pipes knocking like they do when the temperature drops. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my work shirt, staring at her desk in the corner. She kept the co-op books there, treasurer for 6 years. Everyone trusted her with the numbers. The leather chair creaked when I sat. Her laptop was closed, password protected probably. But the desk drawer, she never locked it, said she had nothing to hide. Inside, checkbook registers, co-op meeting minutes, a stack of opened mail, and underneath, folded once, a letter from First National Bank. Home equity line of credit, $85,000. Withdrawn in full October 10th. My hands went cold. We'd talked about equity loans before. I'd said no. The ranch was paid off. 50 years to clear that debt. I wasn't putting it back in chains. The shower shut off. I heard her humming something, light, unburdened. I put the letter back, not quite the same fold, and moved to the window. Outside, Curtis's truck was still in the driveway. He'd stayed for pie, said he'd head home soon. His headlights hadn't moved. Helen came out in her robe, towel wrapped around her hair. She saw me standing there. Couldn't sleep? Thinking about the apology. She smiled, relieved, maybe. Thank you for being reasonable, I nodded. She crossed to the desk, froze for half a second, saw the drawer not quite closed, then pulled it shut with her hip, casual, practiced. That equity loan? I said. Quiet. Her shoulders stiffened. What about it? $85,000. She turned. Her face was calm, too calm. For the co-op renovations, the HVAC system, the roof, I told you about it. You told me we were applying for a grant. The grant fell through. We needed the money fast or lose the contractor. She sat on the bed, rubbed lotion into her hands. The smell was lavender, chemical. You wouldn't understand the accounting, Walter. It's complicated. And then help me understand. It's late. We'll talk about it later. She turned off the lamp on her side. I stood there in the dark, listening to her breathe. Even, untroubled, like a woman with nothing on her conscience. Morning came with frost on the windows. I found Curtis in the barn, oiling the gate hinges. The sound of the cloth on metal was rhythmic, patient. You stayed, I said. Truck wouldn't turn over. Cold got to the battery. He didn't look at me. Slept in the cab. Wasn't too bad. I knew Curtis's truck. Started in worse weather than this. He straightened. Set down the oil can. You find anything last night? Equity loan, $85,000. He whistled low. She tell you what for? Co-op renovations? Co-op got new HVAC last spring. I was there when they installed it. Cost $12,000, maybe $15,000. Paid by the state ag grant. He wiped his hands on a rag. Where's the other $70,000? The office was cold. I turned on the space heater, heard it tick and hum. Curtis spread his ledgers on the desk. Old ones, from the 70s when he'd served on the co-op board. This is how we used to format invoices, he said, tapping a yellowed page. Vendor name, equipment serial, model year, delivery date. Everything matched. You could trace every dollar. He pulled out Helen's recent reports. Cleaner, printed from a computer, but the format was similar, except for one section. Travis Equipment Company, 23 invoices over 18 months. Total, $127,000. She signs these? Curtis asked. She and Travis. Dual signature requirement for anything over $5,000. Curtis ran his finger down the list. This baler here, February, says you bought it, $22,000. I never saw a baler. This combine attachment, August, $31,000. You got that delivered? I shook my head. The mail truck rattled up the driveway. Curtis went to fetch it, came back with a stack, most of it junk, but one envelope from First National Bank addressed to me. Inside, notice about the deed transfer. My son's name on the inheritance line. The lawyer had filed it back in September. said it had processed by April for tax reasons. Required my signature, Helen's signature, financial disclosure forms, clear title verification, deadline April 15th. Helen hasn't submitted the financial forms, I said. Curtis looked at the date, November 27th. You got 4.5 months. She has to sign. It's her ranch too, legally. And if she won't? I stared at the letter, my son's name. 50 years of work, ready to pass on, clean, proper, the way my father would have wanted. Then I got a problem, I said. Curtis tapped the invoice list. This ain't accounting, boy. His voice was flat, hard. This is theft with a smile. The co-op meeting room smelled like burnt coffee and damp wool coats. December had come in cold, and folks tracked in road salt that crunched under boots on the linoleum. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, one of them flickering like it always did. 8 board members sat at the front table. Helen at the center, treasurer's ledger open in front of her. She wore her reading glasses, the ones that made her look official, competent. 30 members in folding chairs, farmers I'd known for decades. Curtis sat beside me, arms crossed. Helen cleared her throat. Quarterly report was delayed due to computer issues. I apologize for that. She distributed photocopies, her handwriting neat in the margins. But everything's in order now. Revenue's up 4%. Equipment fund's healthy. A few nods. Someone coughed. Travis leaned back in his chair at the end of the table. He wasn't on the board, just attended as a vendor. He'd been doing that more often lately. Before we move to new business, Helen said, not looking at me, I want to address something. The room went quiet. Last month, Walter questioned an invoice. In front of the whole board, implied there was an error. She folded her hands. Travis, would you like to respond? Travis grinned. Easy, charming. No hard feelings, Helen. Walter's just got OCD about the details. We all know that. And a few people chuckled. I mean, the man measures fence posts with a level. More laughter, light, harmless. Helen didn't smile. Nevertheless, it was inappropriate. Walter, you questioned Travis's integrity. Publicly. I felt 30 pairs of eyes turn toward me. The serial number didn't match, I said. Clerical error, Travis cut in. Already corrected with corporate. Helen verified it. Right, Helen? She nodded. It's been resolved. Then the matter's closed, said Bill Crawford, board president. He had a farm 2 counties over, barely attended meetings. Let's move on. Not quite. Helen's voice had that edge again. Walter owes Travis an apology. Curtis shifted beside me. I heard his knee crack. For what? I asked. Doing my job as a member, checking the numbers. For making accusations without proof, Helen said. Her face was calm, stone. For embarrassing a vendor who's given this co-op fair prices for years. Travis held up a hand. Really, it's fine. No. Helen cut him off. It's not fine. This is about maintaining standards. If we start questioning every invoice, every decision, we create chaos. Bill Crawford shifted in his seat. Walter, just say you're sorry, and we can move on. It's been a long meeting. I looked at Helen. She stared back, waiting. Curtis leaned close, his breath warm. Don't do it. But I stood, slow, let the chair scrape. I'll apologize, I said. Helen blinked. Relief flickered across her face. Next meeting, publicly, in front of everyone who needs to hear it. Travis frowned, like he'd missed something. Helen recovered quick. That's acceptable. January meeting. We'll put it on the agenda. Good, I said. I'll make sure everyone understands exactly what I'm apologizing for. The parking lot was dark, lit only by the single streetlight that barely worked. My truck was cold, the steering wheel like ice under my hands. Curtis climbed in the passenger side, said nothing. I was about to start the engine when someone tapped on the window. Karen Holcomb, Travis's wife. County extension agent, good with soil samples and grant paperwork. We'd spoken maybe a dozen times over the years. Always polite, always professional. I rolled down the window. Cold air rushed in. She didn't say anything. Just set a manila folder on the truck hood and walked away, fast. Her boots crunching through the salt toward her car. Curtis got out, grabbed the folder before the wind took it. Inside, a printout from the county clerk's website. Business registration, Florida LLC. Holcomb and Brennan, Land Ventures. Filed 8 months ago, April 17th. Travis Holcomb, managing member. Helen Brennan, financial officer. Registered agent, a Sarasota address. Curtis handed it to me without a word. I stared at Helen's name. Her signature, at the bottom, notarized. Official. April, I said, right after tax season. Right after the co-op approved that big equipment budget, Curtis said, the one she pushed through. I looked across the lot. Karen's taillights were already disappearing down the county road. She hadn't waited, hadn't asked for anything. Curtis pulled out the deed transfer paperwork from his coat. He'd brought it, just in case. The lawyer's notes were clipped to the top. Says here Helen's signature is required for the transfer, no exceptions. He ran his finger down the page. Both parties must consent. If one party refuses, the other can file for court override, but it requires proof of material harm or fraud. How long does that take? 6 weeks minimum, costs money, needs a lawyer. I did the math. December 5th. April 15th deadline. 18 weeks. Tight, I said. Oh, real tight. Curtis folded the papers. Especially if she decides not to cooperate. I looked back at the co-op building. Through the window, I could see Helen gathering her things. Travis stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. They were laughing about something. Karen's voice came back to me from 3 months ago at a soil testing seminar. She'd mentioned Travis talking about retirement, about beaches, about finally getting out of the cold. He mentioned Sarasota every night, she'd said. I think they're planning something. I thought she meant a vacation. Now I understood. She'd meant an exit. Curtis showed up on a Tuesday morning in mid-January. No phone call, no warning. Just his truck in the driveway and a duffel bag over his shoulder. I was in the kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. Helen had been gone since Sunday, staying with her sister in Columbus, she said. Needed space to think. The house was too quiet without her, and I couldn't decide if that was good or bad. Curtis walked in like he owned the place, set his bag by the door. You ain't alone, boy, he said. That was it. No asking permission, no explaining. He'd brought his ledgers. The old ones from the 70s when co-op accounting was done in pen and ink, when every entry had a paper trail you could hold in your hands. He spread them across the kitchen table, pushed my coffee aside. We're going to do this proper, he said, the way it should have been done from the start. The furnace kicked on. The vents rattled, blowing warm air that smelled like dust and heating oil. Outside, icicles dripped from the eaves, slow, methodical, the sound of water hitting the porch boards. Curtis laid Helen's co-op reports beside his ledgers. Printouts, neat columns, everything looking official. He pulled a yellow legal pad from his bag, uncapped a pen. Read me the first Travis equipment entry, he said. I found it. March, 2 years ago. Hydraulic lift system, $12,000. He wrote it down. Next. May, irrigation pump, $8,500. Next. We went through all of them, 23 invoices. His hand never stopped moving, that pen scratching across paper. When we finished, he drew a line at the bottom, added the column. $127,000, he said. Over 18 months. I stared at the number. It looked worse written out like that. Real. Curtis circled one entry, February last year. This baler. $22,000, top of the line. You got it delivered? Never saw it. Where's it supposed to be? Report says storage barn, south lot. You check? I hadn't. I'd trusted the paperwork. Trusted Helen to keep the records straight. Curtis stood, grabbed his coat. Let's go look. The barn was cold, our breath steaming in the dim light. The door hinges screamed when we pushed them open. Inside, 2 older balers, the kind we'd been using for years, rust on the frames, paint chipped, but functional, no new equipment, nothing worth $22,000. Curtis walked the length of the barn, checked the equipment tags, the serial numbers stamped on the frames, pulled out a pocket notebook, wrote them down. These are both pre-2010 models, he said. Registration stickers are older than dirt. We checked 4 more items. A combine attachment, Helen's report said, was delivered in August. A fertilizer spreader from September. A backup generator from November. None of them existed. Ghost equipment, Curtis said. He wasn't angry, just stating fact. They're billing the co-op for machinery that never gets delivered. Pocketing the money, probably splitting it. I leaned against the barn wall. The wood was cold through my coat, rough under my palm. How long you think this has been going on? Hard to say. Could be years. Curtis tucked his notebook away. But we got proof now. Paper trail and empty barns. That's enough for the law. Or enough for the bank, I said. The bank officer's name was Donald Pritchard, 60-some years old, tie too tight, aftershave that smelled like pine trees and antiseptic. His office was wood-paneled, the kind of fake paneling from the 80s that was supposed to look distinguished. A calendar on the wall showed December still. He hadn't flipped it yet. Curtis sat beside me. We'd brought copies of everything. The invoices, the empty barn photos Curtis had taken on his phone, the deed transfer paperwork. Pritchard looked it over, slow, thorough. His reading glasses kept sliding down his nose. Deed transfers scheduled for April 15th, he said. Tax deadline, clean and simple, assuming both parties cooperate. And if they don't, I asked, then it gets complicated. He pulled out a different folder, legal letterhead. You can file for an emergency court order. Essentially, you're asking a judge to override your wife's signature requirement. What does that take? Proof of material harm, proof that she's actively working against the estate's interest, or proof of fraud. He tapped the invoice copies. This might qualify, might not. Judge's discretion. How long? 6 weeks to get a hearing. Another week or two for the order to process. Figure 8 weeks total, if you're lucky. I counted backward from April 15th. That puts us at mid-February to file. At the latest, Pritchard said. Any later and you're cutting it too close. Miss that deadline, the whole thing gets pushed to next year. And next year, tax laws change. You'd lose the exemptions. Curtis leaned forward. What's it cost? Legal fees, filing fees, court costs? $8,000, maybe $10,000, depending on how much your wife fights it. $8,000. Money I didn't exactly have lying around. Pritchard closed the folder. His chair squeaked when he leaned back. Mr. Brennan, I'll be straight with you. This is a viable path. But you'll need more than suspicion. You'll need her caught. Documentation, witnesses, evidence that holds up in court. We got evidence, Curtis said, tapping the photos. You've got empty barns and invoices. That's a start. But a good lawyer will say the equipment's stored elsewhere, or it was returned, or it was a clerical error. Pritchard looked at me over his glasses. You need something that can't be explained away. We left the bank as the sun was setting. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds that promised snow. My truck's heater struggled, blowing lukewarm air that smelled like old dust. Curtis stared out the window. We're going to need more than photos. I know. And we're running out of time. I gripped the steering wheel. The plastic was cracked, worn smooth from 50 years of hands. My father's hands, mine, soon my son's, if Helen let it happen. Then we better get to work, I said. Travis showed up on a Thursday in late February, no phone call. Just his truck pulling into the driveway while I was fixing fence in the south pasture. I heard the engine first, that diesel rumble that needed a tune-up, then his door slamming. Boots on frozen ground. Helen was inside. She'd come back from her sister's 3 days ago, hadn't said much. We moved around each other like boarders, polite and distant. Curtis stayed in the guest room over the garage, made himself scarce when she was around. Travis knocked. Helen answered. I heard their voices through the kitchen window, couldn't make out the words. Then Helen called my name. I walked up slow, pulled off my work gloves. My hands smelled like fence wire and machine oil. Travis stood in the kitchen, too comfortable. He'd poured himself coffee from our pot, leaned against our counter. His coat was still on, snow melting off his boots onto Helen's clean floor. Walter, he said it like we were old friends. Got a proposition for you. I didn't sit, just waited. South 80 acres, I know you're not using it much anymore. Too far from the main operation. He sipped the coffee. I'd like to buy it. Cash offer. Fair market value. Not selling. Hear me out. He set down the cup. His hands were shaking slightly, just enough to notice. Market's gonna crash. Farm prices are already soft. You liquidate now, you get ahead of it. Put that money somewhere safe. Helen moved closer to him. Not obvious. Just a shift of weight. We could use the cash, Walter. The equity loan payment's coming due. I looked at her. Thought that was for co-op renovations? Her jaw tightened. We should discuss this privately. No need. Travis smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. This is business. Good business. I'm offering you a favor, Walter. Take advantage before the bottom falls out. When's it falling out? I asked. Spring, maybe summer. Economists are all saying the same thing. Farm economy's in trouble. He pulled out a folded paper from his coat. I've got the paperwork here. We could close fast. 2 weeks. Curtis appeared in the hallway, silent, just standing there listening. Travis saw him, faltered for a second. You'd be smart to consider it. Already did, I said. Answer's no. Travis's smile went cold. Offer expires end of month. After that, market decides what your land's worth. And trust me, it won't be pretty. He left the paperwork on the counter, walked out without another word. His truck spun gravel, pulling away too fast. Helen stood there, arms crossed. You didn't even look at the numbers. Don't need to? We need the money, Walter. Oh, for what? Florida? Her face went blank. Careful. I don't know what you mean. Curtis stepped into the kitchen. He means Sarasota. Holcomb and Brennan Land Ventures. April 17th. Filing date. Helen looked at me, then at Curtis. Something flickered in her eyes. Not quite fear, more like recalculation. That's Travis's project. I helped with the paperwork. That's all. Your name's on it, I said. As a consultant. It doesn't mean anything. She grabbed her purse from the table. I have a co-op board meeting tonight. Emergency session. We'll talk about this later. She left before I could respond. Curtis poured himself coffee. His hands were shaking. I saw. Man's desperate. Needs cash fast. For what? Curtis looked at the paperwork Travis had left. Maybe Florida ain't going so well. The co-op meeting room was packed. More people than I'd seen in years. Word had gotten out. Emergency session? Something about the equipment fund? Folks wanted answers. The air was hot. Too many bodies in too small a space. Wet wool and coffee and nervous sweat. The radiator clanked and hissed in the corner. Someone had propped the door open to let in cold air, but it barely helped. Bill Crawford sat at the head table, looking uncomfortable. Beside him, Helen. Her face was composed, hands folded on top of the ledger. Travis sat in the back row, trying to look casual. An auditor I didn't recognize stood at the front. Gray suit, reading glasses, the kind of man who counted everything twice. "Gentlemen, ladies," Bill said. "We've got a situation. Brad here is from the State Ag Board. Been reviewing our books. Brad?" The auditor cleared his throat. "There's a discrepancy in the equipment fund. Significant discrepancy. $127,000 over 18 months. The room went silent, just the radiator, hissing. Multiple invoices from Travis Equipment Company, like dual signatures on all of them, Mrs. Brennan and Mr. Holcomb. But when we cross-referenced with delivery records and physical inventory, we've got problems." Helen raised her hand, calm, steady. "This is a clerical error. Travis's bookkeeper made mistakes in the filing system. We're working to correct it." 23 clerical errors, the auditor said. Someone coughed. Curtis sat beside me, arms crossed. Bill looked at Travis. "You want to explain this?" Travis stood, that easy smile back in place. Like Helen said, "Bookkeeping error, my fault. I've been transitioning to a new system. Things got confused. All the equipment was delivered. It's just a matter of matching the paperwork." "Where's the equipment now?" the auditor asked. "Various locations, storage facilities, leased barns. Some of it's with other co-ops on loan. Can you provide documentation?" "Absolutely. Give me a week." Bill started to nod, ready to move on. I stood. The chair scraped loud against the floor. Everyone turned. "I promised an apology," I said. Helen's face went pale. "Travis, I apologize." My voice was steady, clear. "I should have questioned you sooner. I should have checked the serial numbers months ago. I should have verified every invoice you submitted." Travis frowned. "Walter? I apologize for trusting you." I pulled out the folder Karen had given me, the Florida LLC registration. Show everyone the land deed, the Sarasota property, the one with both your names on it. The room erupted, voices overlapping. Someone shouted. Bill banged his gavel. Karen stood in the back. She walked forward, slow and deliberate, and set a stack of bank statements on the table. Her hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. "Joint account," she said. "Travis Holcomb and Helen Brennan. Deposits matching the co-op withdrawals. All of it going to land payments in Florida." Helen stood. This is taken out of context." "Context?" I said. "You embezzled from your neighbors, from people who trusted you." The sheriff had been standing in the back. He stepped forward now. Bill Crawford looked sick. "Motion to suspend Mrs. Brennan's treasurer duties pending investigation. All in favor?" 5 hands went up immediately. After a long pause, 3 more joined them. Helen grabbed her purse. Travis was already moving toward the door. They left together, not looking back. The auditor cleared his throat. "Mr. Crawford, I'll need to inform the state. They'll likely freeze all accounts pending a full audit." "How long?" someone asked. "Weeks, maybe months." I felt the room shift, the weight of 30 stares. Bill's voice was quiet. "Walter, you knew about this. How long have you known?" "I suspected. I investigated." You should have come to us first." "I'm coming to you now." A farmer I'd known for 20 years spoke up. "Seems convenient. Walter's got financial troubles, makes accusations against his own wife. Maybe he's covering his tracks." Curtis stood. Boy's got more honor in his pinky than... "Curtis." I put a hand on his arm. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. I could see it in their faces. Half the room believed me. The other half thought I was deflecting. The accounts were frozen. Helen was gone, and my reputation was burning down right alongside hers. Pastor Ed came by on Sunday afternoon. I was on the porch, trying to fix a gate hinge that had rusted through. The metal was cold under my fingers, stubborn. The smell of penetrating oil hung in the air. He parked his Buick, walked up slow. He wore his church clothes, dark slacks, and a sweater vest. His aftershave reached me before he did. "Walter." I kept working on the hinge. "Pastor, can we talk?" I set down the wrench. "About?" "About forgiveness, about moving forward, about what's best for this community." Curtis came out of the barn, saw Pastor Ed, kept walking toward the south fence line. making himself scarce. Pastor Ed sat on the porch step. The wood creaked under his weight. This situation with Helen and Travis, it's tearing the co-op apart. People are taking sides. Families aren't speaking to each other. That's not my doing. No, but you could help heal it. He folded his hands. If you forgave her, publicly. Let the co-op handle the financial side quietly without all this, he gestured vaguely. Drama. I wiped oil from my hands with a rag. You want me to lie. I want you to show grace. To be the bigger man. You've been married 50 years, Walter. That has to count for something. The wind picked up. Dead leaves skittered across the porch. March weather, cold one day, almost warm the next. The rain barrel had an inch of water in it, no longer frozen solid. She stole from our neighbors, I said. From people who can't afford it. Sam Hendricks, his medical bills are killing him. He needed that equipment fund. Mary Kowalski, she's barely holding on after her husband died. That money was supposed to help people like them. I understand that. But prosecuting your own wife? I'm not prosecuting anyone. I'm just not covering for her anymore. Pastor Ed sighed, pulled off his glasses, cleaned them on his sweater. The board's voting Thursday whether to press criminal charges. If they do, Helen will go to jail. Travis too, probably. Is that what you want? I thought about that. 50 years. Half my life with her. Sunday mornings and harvest dinners and the way she used to laugh before everything got complicated. No, I said. It's not what I want, but it's not my choice to make. She chose when she signed those invoices. She chose every time she deposited that money. She chose Florida over the people who trusted her. And you? You've made no mistakes? Plenty. But I didn't steal from my neighbors. Pastor Ed stood, brushed off his slacks. Board's going to ask you to testify, to provide evidence. You know that, right? I know. And you'll do it? If they ask. He walked to his car, paused with his hand on the door. She'll lose everything, Walter. Her reputation, her freedom, maybe more. She already lost it, I said. I'm just not pretending she didn't. He drove away. The engine noise faded into the distance, leaving just the wind and the creak of the barn door swinging. Curtis came back from the fence line, stood at the bottom of the porch steps. That'd take courage. Almost. Felt more like necessity. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Unwrapped it, careful, a fountain pen. Old, brass body worn smooth from decades of handling. The clip was engraved with initials I couldn't quite make out. My daddy's pen, Curtis said. He signed our first deed with this, back in 1947, when land still meant something, when a signature meant you stood behind your word. He held it out to me. I can't. You can. You will. He pressed it into my palm. The brass was warm from his pocket. When it's time to sign that deed transfer, you use this. Not Helen's pen, not the bank's cheap plastic. This one reminds you what you're fighting for. I turned it over in my hand. The weight was solid, real, the kind of thing that lasted. Thank you, I said. Curtis nodded, walked back to the barn without another word. That evening, I sat in the ranch office. The space heater ticked and hummed. Outside, I could hear spring peepers starting, just barely. The ice was melting, slowly. I stared at the phone for 10 minutes before I picked it up. My son's number was programmed in, but I couldn't remember the last time I'd called it. 2 years? 3? He answered on the 4th ring. Dad? Hey. Silence. Then, everything okay? Mom okay? Your mother's fine, physically. I paused. We've got a situation. I told him everything. The embezzlement, the Florida LLC, the frozen accounts, the deed transfer deadline in 6 weeks. He didn't interrupt, just listened. I could hear traffic in the background. City noise. He lived in Cincinnati now. Worked in tech sales, something I barely understood. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. You should have called me sooner, he said finally. I know. This is Jesus, Dad. This is bad. I know that too. More silence. Then, the deed transfer. If Mom won't sign, what happens? Bank says we can get a court override. Emergency order. Needs proof of fraud and about $8,000 in legal fees. You have $8,000? Not exactly. He exhaled hard. I've got some savings. I can help. I gripped the phone tighter. I wasn't calling for money. I know, but you need it. And he paused. Look, 10 years ago, I wanted you to sell this place. I thought you were wasting your life on dirt. That wasn't worth the trouble. I was wrong. But you weren't wrong to want what you wanted. I was wrong about what mattered. His voice cracked slightly. You built something. You and Grandpa and Curtis. Something real. I'm not letting Mom destroy that. Curtis appeared in the doorway, held up a pot of coffee, questioning. I nodded. I'll research the court order process, my son said. Emergency filings, requirements, timeline. I'll call you tomorrow with options. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. You're my father. That ranch it's part of me. Even if I didn't want to admit it. He paused. I'm coming home. When? Soon as I can arrange it. Week, maybe 2. Don't sign anything till I get there. After we hung up, Curtis poured coffee. Set a mug in front of me. The steam smelled like morning, like work that needed doing. Your boy coming? He asked. Says he is. Curtis smiled. Good. You're gonna need him. Through the window, I could see the first stars coming out. The temperature was dropping again, frost likely by morning. But underneath, in the soil, things were shifting. Winter letting go, spring preparing, not yet, but soon. Church let out at noon. I wasn't inside. Hadn't been in 3 weeks. Couldn't sit through Pastor Ed's sermons knowing what he'd asked me to do. But I was in the parking lot, waiting in my truck. Needed to talk to Bill Crawford about Thursday's board vote. Curtis sat beside me, drinking coffee from a thermos. The cab smelled like it, bitter and strong. People filed out. Sunday clothes, smiles, handshakes, normal life. Then I saw Travis. He was surrounded by folks. Tom Henley, George Vasquez, Sarah Mitchell, all co-op members. He was talking, animated, that easy charm turned up high. People were nodding, sympathetic. He's working them, Curtis said quietly. Helen came out behind him. She'd been going to early service, different time than me. Avoiding. She looked thin, worn. Her coat hung loose on her shoulders. Travis put his hand on her back, guiding her through the crowd. Protective. Bill Crawford approached them. I couldn't hear from the truck, but I could see Travis's face. Earnest. Explaining something, his hands moving, gesturing. Bill's expression softened. We should hear this, Curtis said. We got out. The air was cold, but the sun was warm where it hit. Mud season. The parking lot was a mess of slush and gravel. Travis saw us coming. Didn't miss a beat. Financial troubles for months, he was saying to Bill. I tried to help. Offered to buy some land, give him liquidity. He refused, got defensive. Started making accusations. The invoices are real, Bill said, but his voice had doubt in it now. The invoices are accurate. The bookkeeping got confused. I've explained that. Travis's face was serious, concerned. Look, I understand Walter's under pressure. The equity loan, the ranch succession, it's a lot. People do desperate things when they're scared. Helen spoke up, quiet, tearful. He's been erratic, jealous, controlling. I thought it would pass, but her voice broke. Sarah Mitchell put an arm around her. Oh, honey. I stopped a few feet away, Curtis beside me. Travis turned to face me. Walter, we were just... I heard. I'm trying to clear this up, for everyone's sake. The equipment exists. I can provide documentation. It's just going to take time. How much time? Week or 2. Board votes Thursday, Bill said. Then I'll have everything by Thursday. Travis looked around at the small crowd. I've served this co-op for 15 years. Fair prices? Good service? I'm not going to let a misunderstanding destroy that. George Vasquez nodded. Makes sense to me. Let the man prove his case. Tom Henley looked at me. Walter, you got proof he's lying? Real proof? I thought about the empty barns, the photos Curtis had taken. But Travis was right. A lawyer could explain those away. Storage elsewhere. Loaned equipment. Returns not yet processed. Not yet, I said. Then maybe we should wait, Tom said, before we ruin a man's life over paperwork. Helen looked at me. Our eyes met. For just a second, I saw something there. Not remorse. Something colder. She'd chosen her side. Was sticking with it. Come on, Helen, Travis said. Let's get you home. They walked to his truck. 3 of the co-op members walked with them, still talking, still sympathetic. Bill Crawford stayed back. He looked uncomfortable. Walter, I want to believe you, but it's complicated. Theft's not complicated. Accusations are, without solid proof. He shifted his weight. Thursday's vote might not go the way you think. Curtis spoke up, calm and flat. Let him talk. We got better than words. Bill frowned. What's that mean? Means we're working on it. Curtis tossed his coffee onto the gravel. Come on, Walter. The call came Tuesday morning. Curtis answered, because I was out feeding. He found me in the barn, cattle lowing around us, the smell of hay and manure thick in the cold air. Bank's sending a repo agent to Travis's lot, he said. Co-op filed a lien. They want their money or the equipment. When? Now. They want witnesses, neutral parties. We were there in 15 minutes. Karen was already in the parking lot, her county extension truck idling. She saw us, nodded once. The repo agent was a woman in her 40s, professional. Clipboard, camera, no-nonsense expression. Her name tag said Brenda Ellis. You're Curtis Mathis? She asked. Yes, ma'am. And you witnessed the invoice deliveries? No, ma'am. That's the point. Nobody did. Travis pulled up 5 minutes later. His face went pale when he saw the repo truck. What's this? Equipment audit, Mr. Holcomb, Brenda said. Co-ops filed a lien. We need to verify inventory before we process the claim. No, this isn't a good time. It's the only time. You've got 48 hours to produce the equipment or we file criminal fraud charges. Travis fumbled with his keys, unlocked the gate to his lot. The chain rattled, metal on metal. Inside, the lot looked full. Tractors, balers, attachments. Rows of them under tarps and awnings. At first glance, it seemed legitimate. Brenda walked to the first tractor, called out the make and model, pulled out her phone, dialed someone. Yeah, it's Ellis. Need a serial number check. John Deere, model 5075E. She read the number stamped on the frame, waited. Her expression changed. You sure? Okay, thanks. And she looked at Travis. This serial number is registered to a 2008 model. You're selling it as a 2023? Must be a mistake. Let's check another one. We went through 8 pieces of equipment. 6 had serial numbers that didn't match their supposed models. 2 were so rusted underneath the fresh paint that Brenda took close-up photos of the corrosion. Curtis walked to a covered baler in the back, pulled off the tarp. The frame was bent, welds cracked. A parts scavenger, not working equipment. This the one on the February invoice? Curtis asked. $22,000 baler? Brenda checked her list. According to the co-op records, yes. This ain't worth $2,000, maybe not even $200. Karen was documenting everything with her phone. Timestamps, serial numbers, the whole process. Brenda turned to Travis. Miss Holcomb, where's the rest of the inventory? Your insurance lists 47 pieces of equipment. I count maybe 25, and half of those are fraudulent. Travis's hands were shaking. Some of it's out on loan, some's in storage. Where? Different facilities. Names and addresses. Now. And he couldn't provide them. Just stood there, speechless, while his empire collapsed around him in a muddy equipment lot under gray March clouds. Cold rain started, light but steady. It pinged off metal roofs soaked into the dirt. The smell of wet rust and machine oil filled the air. Brenda closed her clipboard. Mr. Holcomb, you've got 48 hours to produce the missing equipment with proper documentation. If you can't, we're filing charges. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, the full list. She looked at Curtis and Karen. You two are material witnesses. You'll need to make statements. Oh, we will, Curtis said. Brenda got in her truck, drove off, tires throwing mud. Travis stood there in the rain, beaten. Karen walked over to him. Her face was hard. I loved you, she said quietly. I would have followed you anywhere. But not like this, not built on lies. And she got in her truck and left too. Travis looked at me. This is your fault. No, I said. This is yours. You just ran out of people to blame. Curtis and I walked back to my truck. The rain was picking up, turning the lot to soup. In 2 days, Travis would have to auction everything, and everyone would see. Thursday's going to be interesting, Curtis said. I started the engine. The heater wheezed to life. Real interesting. The divorce papers sat on my desk for 3 days. The lawyer had sent them over after the repo agent's report said it would protect the ranch assets, separate my liability from Helen's. I couldn't bring myself to sign. Wednesday night, I sat in the office. The space heater ticked and hummed in the corner. Outside, spring peepers were calling, that high rhythmic chirp that meant the ponds were thawing. The sound came through the cracked window, mixing with the smell of wet earth and distant rain. Curtis found me there around 9. Knocked once, came in without waiting for an answer. He had 2 glasses and a bottle of whiskey. The cheap kind we used to drink after long days. He poured, slid a glass across the desk. You gonna sign those? I don't know. What's stopping you? I picked up the pen, set it down. 50 years, Curtis, half my life. We built this place together, her and me, the house, the barns. We buried our parents here, celebrated every harvest, every spring. You also trusted her. I did. And she used that trust to steal from your neighbors. I took a drink. The whiskey burned, going down. Doesn't make it easier. Curtis settled into the chair across from me. His knees cracked when he sat. Outside, the peepers kept calling, relentless, patient. My wife died in 96, Curtis said. Cancer. 3 months from diagnosis to grave. I sat with her every night toward the end. She'd talk about the garden, what we'd plant come spring, made me promise I'd keep it going. He stared at his glass. April came. I couldn't do it. Couldn't dig in that dirt, knowing she'd never see it. Couldn't plant seeds she'd never harvest. He took a drink. Turned the whole thing to grass. Covered it over. Easier that way. I remember. Took me 2 years to realize I'd made a mistake. That garden was hers, but it was also mine. The work we did together, letting it die didn't honor her, just made two things dead instead of one. And I looked at the papers. Helen's name at the top. All those years reduced to legal language. Petition for dissolution, division of assets, no fault separation. This ain't the same, I said. No, it ain't. Curtis leaned forward. Because your wife's not dead. She chose to leave, chose Florida over you. Chose theft over honor. You're not killing the marriage, Walter. You're just not pretending it's still alive. She'll lose everything. Her reputation, maybe her freedom. She already lost it. The minute she signed those first fake invoices. His voice was hard, certain. You didn't make her steal. You didn't force her to lie to the co-op or hide money in Florida. You're just stopping her from keeping it. The heater clicked off. In the silence, the peepers sounded louder. Spring arriving, whether we were ready or not. I picked up the pen. Curtis's fountain pen, the one his father had used. The brass was warm from my hand, heavy, real. I signed my name. 3 places, dated it, pushed the papers aside. Curtis poured another round. That take more courage than most men got. Don't feel like courage. Never does. Just feels like necessity. He raised his glass. To doing what's right, even when it costs. We drank. The whiskey burned less the second time. Auction's Friday, Curtis said. You ready? I will be. Your boy still coming? Said he'd be here Thursday. Curtis nodded, stood with a grunt. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's gonna be long. After he left, I sat in the dark for a while. The papers were signed, the marriage over. 50 years. Ended with my signature on legal documents I'd never wanted to see. But the ranch was still here. The land, the work, the morning feeding and fence mending and all the small rituals that made a life worth living. Helen had chosen to leave that behind. I was choosing to stay. Through the window I could see the barn. Curtis's light was on in the guest room above it. Steady, constant. Some things didn't leave. Some people didn't quit. I turned off the heater, locked the office. The peepers followed me to the house, their sound carrying on the damp air, spring coming on, winter finally letting go. My son's truck pulled in at dawn. I was in the barn feeding when I heard it. An unfamiliar engine, newer than anything we kept here. He got out, looking tired. 3-day stubble, coffee-stained shirt. The kind of exhaustion that comes from driving straight through the night. Dad, you drove all night? 10 hours, left after work. He grabbed a bag from the passenger seat. Papers, legal folders. Got the emergency court order documents. Judge signed off pending today's findings. If the auction proves fraud, we can file Monday. You'll have the deed transferred by mid-April. Curtis came out of the barn, sized up my son, extended a hand. You look like your grandfather. I've heard that. They shook, firm, respectful. We went inside. Curtis made coffee, while my son spread papers across the kitchen table. The morning light was gray, promising rain. The smell of coffee, mixed with the lingering scent of wood smoke from last night's fire. How's it work? I asked. If Travis can't produce the equipment today, which the repo agent says he can't, we've got fraud. Banks filing criminal charges, co-ops filing civil suit. With that documentation, judge overrides mom's signature requirement. Claims she's working against the estate's interest. How sure are you? 90%, maybe 95. He looked at me. Dad, this works. We're gonna save the ranch. Curtis set down 3 mugs. Karen Holcomb's testifying. She's got copies of everything. Bank statements, invoices, the Florida LLC paperwork. Is she okay? My son asked. No, I said. But she's doing it anyway. We drank coffee, made plans. Curtis explained how the auction would work. Auctioneer would call each lot, verify serial numbers publicly. 20 farmers had confirmed attendance. Word had spread. People wanted to see. It'll be a circus, Curtis said. Good, my son replied. More witnesses. Around noon, Curtis handed me a clean flannel shirt. Wear this, look respectable, not like a man with something to hide. I changed. The fabric smelled like detergent and fresh air. Curtis had washed it yesterday, hung it to dry in the barn. He gave me his fountain pen. Keep this in your pocket. Reminds you what you're fighting for. The brass was cool in my palm. Solid. A thing that lasted. My son stood in the doorway. We looked at each other. 50 years of missed conversations sitting between us like fog. Dad, he said quietly, whatever happens today, I'm proud of you. First time he'd said that in 10 years, maybe longer. Thank you, I said. Curtis grabbed his coat. Time to go watch a man lose everything he stole. The auction lot was mud and diesel exhaust. 50 people, maybe more. Farmers in work coats and feed store caps, standing in groups, talking low. The air smelled like rain coming, that metallic tang before a storm. Clouds hung gray and heavy. Travis's equipment sat in rows under the weak afternoon sun. Tractors, balers, attachments. All of it looking legitimate from a distance. Fresh paint, clean tarps, the illusion of prosperity. The auctioneer stood on a flatbed trailer. Name was Cole Mathis, Curtis's nephew. 40-some years old, third-generation auctioneer. He had a voice that carried, that rapid-fire chant that turned numbers into music. Curtis, my son, and I stood near the back. Karen was there too, off to the side. She'd brought her county extension paperwork, official documentation, the kind that held up in court. Travis arrived 15 minutes late. His truck pulled in slow, deliberate. Helen was with him. They got out together, trying to look confident, but I could see it in the way they moved. Too careful, too controlled. The sheriff's deputy was parked at the gate, just watching, waiting. Cole Mathis cleared his throat. The crowd went quiet. Just the sound of boots shifting in mud, and someone's truck radio playing low. Folks, we're here to liquidate inventory from Travis Equipment Company, court-ordered sale. All proceeds go to creditors. Cole looked at his clipboard. We'll verify each piece as we go. Serial numbers will be checked against manufacturer records. Let's keep this clean and fair. Travis's jaw tightened. Cole pointed to the first lot. John Deere baler, model 568, listed as 2023. Starting bid $5,000. A few hands went up. Bidding was quick. $12,000 final. Hold on, Curtis called out, loud enough to carry. Check that serial number. Cole looked at Curtis, then at Travis. That standard procedure? It is today, Curtis said. Co-op wants verification. Cole climbed down, walked to the baler, found the plate, read the number into his phone, called the Deere verification line. Everyone waited. The only sound was mud, squelching under boots, and a crow calling from the fence line. Cole's face changed. This serial's registered to a 2008 model. Frame's been repainted. The crowd murmured. Travis stepped forward. That's a clerical error. Corporate must have filed wrong. Let's check another one, someone shouted. Cole moved to the next piece. A combine attachment. Listed as new. He found the serial number, made the call, waited. 2011 model. Not new. More murmuring. Louder now. Karen walked forward with her folder, handed papers to Cole. Cross-reference these. Equipment supposedly delivered to the co-op. Check if they match what's here. Cole took the papers, started reading serial numbers, checking them against the lot inventory. His face went hard, professional. Half these machines don't match the invoices. Wrong years, wrong models. Some aren't even the right equipment type. Travis tried again. This is a setup. Check the baler in the back, Curtis said. The one under the blue tarp. Invoice says $22,000, delivered to the co-op last February. 2 men pulled off the tarp. The baler underneath was bent, frame cracked, rust showing through fresh paint. A salvage piece, not working equipment. Someone laughed, bitter. That ain't worth $2,000. Cole walked around it, took photos. This is fraudulent representation. I can't auction this. The sheriff's deputy got out of his car, walked into the lot, slow and deliberate. Travis looked around, trapped. These are clerical errors, bookkeeping mistakes. 23 mistakes? A farmer called out. Over 18 months? Helen moved toward the gate, quiet, trying not to draw attention. Karen stepped in front of her. Don't. Helen stopped. Their eyes met. I've got your bank statements, Karen said, quiet enough that only those nearby could hear. Every deposit, every transfer to Florida, every lie you told me about where my husband was going. Her voice cracked but didn't break. You don't get to run. The deputy reached Travis. Mr. Holcomb, I need you to come with me. We have some questions about these invoices. I want a lawyer. Yeah, that's your right. Let's go. Cole raised his hands. Auction suspended. Equipment inventories invalid pending investigation. He looked at the crowd. Sorry, folks. This is now a crime scene. People started talking, loud, angry. I heard my name, heard Helen's, heard Travis called things I wouldn't repeat. Bill Crawford pushed through the crowd. He looked sick. Walter, I owe you an apology. You owe the co-op an apology. I'm fine. Curtis put his hand on my shoulder. The weight of it was solid, real, a reminder I wasn't alone. My son stood nearby, filming everything on his phone. Documentation, evidence, the kind that would hold up when we filed Monday. Travis was led to the deputy's car, hands behind his back. Not cuffed yet, but close. Helen watched him go. Her face was blank, empty. The crowd started breaking up. People walking to their trucks, talking in groups, processing what they'd just seen. Cole Mathis climbed off the trailer, walked over to Curtis. That what you expected? Worse, Curtis said. Thought maybe half would be fake, not this. He's done. Professionally, probably legally too. Karen stood alone by her truck. I walked over. You okay? I asked. She shook her head. No, but I will be. She looked at the empty lot, the abandoned equipment. How do you live with someone for 20 years and not know them at all? You knew him? He just changed? Or maybe he was always this and we didn't want to see it. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, just true. She got in her truck, sat there for a minute before starting the engine. When she drove past, she nodded once. That was enough. Saturday morning, First National Bank, Donald Pritchard's office still had that fake wood paneling. Still smelled like aftershave and paper. My son sat beside me. Curtis stood by the window, watching the street. The bank was quiet. Weekend hours, just us and Pritchard. Sheriff filed fraud charges Friday night, Pritchard said. Both Travis Holcomb and Helen Brennan. Co-op's civil suit filed this morning. With that documentation, the judge signed your emergency order. He slid papers across the desk. You can proceed with the deed transfer without Helen's signature. Her rights are suspended pending trial. I stared at the papers, my son's name in the inheritance line. The ranch, passing from my hands to his, the way it should be, the way my father would have wanted. Pritchard handed me a pen, bank-issued, plastic, cheap. I set it down. Pulled Curtis's fountain pen from my pocket. The brass caught the light from the window, warm, heavy, a thing that lasted. Use this, I said. My son watched as I signed. 3 places, dated each one. My hand was steady, no hesitation. He signed below me. Co-inheritor, the next generation. Curtis came over, witnessed both signatures, added his own name in the space provided. Pritchard stamped each page. The sound was final, official. Effective immediately, deeds transferred, legacy secured, Mr. Brennan. I put the pen back in my pocket, felt the weight of it, the history. My son's eyes were wet. He didn't wipe them. We did it. You did it, Curtis said. Both of you. Fought for what was right. We walked out into spring sun. The air was warm, soft, the smell of wet earth and new grass. April arriving, whether we were ready or not. In the parking lot, my son stopped. Dad, I'm staying. For a while. Want to learn the operation. Do it right this time. I looked at him, saw my father's eyes, my own stubbornness. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. Curtis was already walking to his truck, whistling something. A hymn, maybe, or just the sound of a man content with a job well done. Monday morning, Helen's car came up the drive. I was in the barn, organizing tools my son would need to learn. Wrenches by size, sockets nested, the kind of order that made work easier. Curtis saw her first. She's here. I know. Want me to stay? No, this is mine. He nodded. Walked toward the back pasture, giving us space but staying close enough. Helen got out slow. She looked smaller somehow, thinner. Her coat was the same one from Thanksgiving, but it didn't fit right anymore. She'd lost weight, or maybe she'd just lost certainty. I met her in the driveway. Gravel crunched under our feet. The morning was warm. First real heat of spring. Meadowlarks were singing in the south field. Their sound carried on air that smelled like turned earth and possibility. Walter. Helen. She held a folder. Legal papers, probably. Her hands shook slightly. Can we talk? We're talking. Inside. Here's fine. She looked around. At the barn, the fields, the house we'd shared for 50 years. I made mistakes. You committed crimes. I know, her voice broke. But it wasn't... Travis, he convinced me. He said we could have something better. That we'd earned it. That the co-op wouldn't miss the money. Sam Hendricks missed it. Mary Kowalski missed it. Every farmer who needed that equipment fund missed it. I know. She wiped her eyes. I want to make it right. I'll testify against Travis. I'll pay everything back. The sheriff already has your statement. The co-op already filed suit. It's out of my hands. But you could talk to them. Tell them I'm cooperating. That he manipulated me. I looked at her, really looked. Saw the woman I'd married, somewhere under the desperation. But also saw the woman who'd signed those invoices. Who'd hidden money. Who'd chosen Florida over 50 years of neighbors who trusted her. You manipulated yourself, I said quietly. You wanted that land in Sarasota. You wanted something different. Travis just gave you permission to take it. That's not fair. No. But it's true. She held out the folder. Divorce papers. Already signed. You can have everything. The ranch, the accounts, whatever's left. Her voice cracked again. I just need you to tell the prosecutor I cooperated. That I deserve leniency. I didn't take the folder. I'll tell them the truth. That you stole from people who couldn't afford it. That you lied for 18 months. That you only came clean when you got caught. So that's it? 50 years and you're just done? I was done when you signed the first fake invoice. I just didn't know it yet. A sheriff's car turned into the drive. Slow. Official. Helen saw it. Her face went pale. What's this? Civil suit. Co-op serving you papers. They want full restitution plus damages. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll lose whatever you do have. The deputy got out. Young woman. Professional. She walked up with an envelope. Helen Brennan? Yes. You've been served. She handed over the papers, walked back to her car, drove away. Helen stood there, holding them, lost. I came to apologize, she whispered. I know. And you won't forgive me. I thought about that. About Pastor Ed's words. About grace and mercy and all the things a good man was supposed to offer. I did apologize, I said. I apologize to every farmer you stole from. I apologize to my son for bringing you into this legacy. I apologize to Curtis for not seeing it sooner. That's all the apologizing either of us gets. She got in her car, sat there for a long moment, engine running, then drove away. Gravel dust hung in the air behind her, catching the sunlight before settling back to earth. Curtis came back from the pasture, stood beside me. We watched the dust clear. She gone for good? He asked. Yeah. How you feel? Tired, sad. I paused. Relieved. All of those make sense. My son came out of the house. He'd been inside, staying out of it, giving me space. You okay, Dad? I will be. He looked down the empty drive. What happened to Travis? Arrested Friday. Bail hearings Tuesday. Karen said the prosecutor's pushing for prison time. 5 years, maybe 7. And Mom? Probably less. If she cooperates, year or 2. I turned toward the barn. But that's not our concern anymore. We got work to do. The fence line ran along the south property. 1/4 mile of posts and wire that needed attention. Winter had been hard on it. Some posts were leaning, wire sagging. My son and I worked side by side. Curtis supervised, calling out which posts needed replacing, where the wire should be tightened. The sun was warm on our backs. The soil was soft underfoot, that perfect spring consistency. Not mud, not dust, just good earth. I showed my son how to dig post holes. The right depth, the right angle. How to tamp the dirt so the post wouldn't shift come winter. His hands weren't used to the work yet. He'd have blisters by evening. But he didn't complain, just listened, learned. A truck pulled up around noon, Karen's county extension vehicle. She got out carrying a cooler. Thought you could use this, she said. Lemonade and sandwiches, the kind of thing neighbors did. We took a break, sat on the tailgate of my truck eating in the sun. The meadowlarks were still singing. Spring peepers from the pond, that whole symphony of things waking up. How you doing? I asked Karen. Better. Filed for divorce last week. Moving to a place in town. She sipped her lemonade. Travis's lot sold at auction yesterday. Wade bought some equipment. Rest went for scrap. What'll happen to the lot itself? Bank owns it now. Probably sit empty for a while. She smiled. Sad but real. Seems right somehow. All that empty space where the lies used to be. After she left, we went back to work, post by post, wire by wire. The kind of labor that didn't require talking, just presence. Around 4, Curtis handed my son the hammer. You set the next one. I'll watch. My son looked at me. I nodded. He dug the hole, set the post. Checked it with a level. Curtis's level, the one from 1947. Tamped the dirt. The post stood straight, solid. Good, Curtis said. You got the feel for it. We worked until sunset. The sky went orange and pink, then purple. The air cooled. Spring evening, the kind that promised tomorrow would be even warmer. Walking back to the house, I looked across the valley, saw Travis's empty equipment lot in the distance. Dark, quiet, no lights, no trucks, just cleared ground. But I didn't see betrayal anymore, didn't see loss. I saw space for something new, truth where lies had been, emptiness as a kind of honesty. My son walked beside me, Curtis ahead of us, whistling that hymn again. The barn light was on, warm yellow against the coming dark. Dad, my son said, thank you. For what? For fighting. For not giving up. He paused. For keeping this place for me. I put my hand on his shoulder. Thank you for coming home. Curtis waited at the barn door. The fountain pen was in my pocket, warm from a day's work. Tomorrow we'd plant the north field. Start the season proper. The land remembered who loved it and who tried to sell it. And now my son would remember too. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the seedlings we'd planted. I opened Curtis's old field notebook, the one he'd kept since the 70s, and wrote the date, the weather, the first report of growth in the north field, continuing the work, keeping the record. People ask if I regret exposing them, if it was worth losing 50 years of marriage, Worth the community split, worth all the pain. I tell them what Curtis told me. Spring always comes. Even when you think the ground's frozen forever. Even when winter feels permanent. Helen's trial is set for June. Travis pleaded guilty last week, took a deal, 5 years. The prosecutor said Helen might get less if she cooperates. Year, maybe 18 months. That's not my concern anymore. The law will handle what the law handles. The co-op recovered most of the money. Insurance covered some. Members took a hit, but not as bad as it could have been. Sam Hendricks sent me a card. Just said thank you. That was enough. I didn't destroy Helen. She chose that path with every forged invoice, every lie to neighbors who trusted her, every dollar she hid in Florida accounts. I just stopped covering for it. That's not revenge. That's restoration. Some men stay silent because they think it's strength. They think keeping secrets protects the people they love. But silence only protects the thief. Truth protects the community. The daffodils Curtis planted on my father's grave are blooming now, yellow and bright against the gray stone. He says flowers are proof, things grow back even after they've been cut down. You just have to give them time and honest ground. My son's been here every day, learning the equipment, the rotation schedules, the way you read weather by how the cattle bunch up or spread out. His hands have calluses now, real ones. The kind you earn. Karen stops by once a week, brings soil samples and coffee, checks on the spring planting. We don't talk about Travis or Helen, just work, just the land and what it needs. Some friendships survive the fire. Curtis keeps his fountain pen on my desk now, says I've earned it, says his father would have approved. When my son signs his first deed, his first real document as owner, he'll use that pen, keep the chain going, keep the precision. I look out at the fields, green stretching to the horizon, the barn where my son's learning to weld, the fence we mended together, the empty equipment lot in the distance. Travis's lot, cleared now, waiting for whatever comes next. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. Curtis was right about that. Right about checking the paper trail, about measuring twice, about silence not being surrender. If someone asked me if I'd apologize again, I'd say yes, every time. Because the best apology you can give is refusing to let a lie stand. That's not cruelty. That's compassion for everyone they would have hurt next. Spring came. Work continues. The soil doesn't lie. And neither do I. Not anymore.